Tonight we're going in depth once again with Tulsa Mayor Monroe Nichols. Last night during our part one of our interview with him, we discussed the city's challenges with homelessness. Tonight we want to focus on the mayor's sales tax increase proposal and where the money would really go and if Tulsa would become expensive should his proposal pass. Let's get back to our conversation with the mayor for part two of our interview. It's unedited. Well, I was going to ask you, is the sales tax proposal dead or is it delayed?
No. I mean, look, I think councilors are going to take it back up in January. I encourage them to talk to the community, talk to folks, business owners, talk to people in neighborhoods. I put us on a very aggressive path for really good reasons, right? One, to make sure that there wasn't any break in the work that we're doing already, so that Safe Move could go on uninterrupted without any mishaps from a budgetary standpoint. To also make sure that should voters approve those resources, it would go into the budget process that we're getting ready to kick off, because Election Day would have been in February. And the budget process, I still believe, is the most transparent way in which we all come together as elected officials to invest in Tulsa. A lot of folks disagree with me. I think there's maybe some disagreement on the severity of some of our challenges. I hope over the next few weeks that councilors kind of understand the severity of those challenges, that councilors are, in a different mindset. I actually think, this is my perspective, certainly my perspective, that Tulsa can jump ahead of a lot of cities in our ability to meet the challenges that we have and our ability to make smart investments, so that whatever is going to happen from an economic standpoint nationally, we can protect ourselves from it in some ways. It is critical that we give voters some agency in making that decision. So no, it's not dead. But if folks don't advocate, my fear is that my colleagues on the fourth floor might not understand kind of the environment that we're in, and I certainly hope they do.
How would we have compared our tax rate to Owasso and Broken Arrow? Because that was one of the arguments I heard was, I'll just go shop next door.
Yeah, I mean, if you go
50 cents.
in most cases, if you go shop next door, you'd pay more right now.
Okay.
If you go shop in Owasso, you're going to pay more. If you go shop in Bixby, you're going to pay more. If you go shop in Glenpool, you're going to pay more, right? So in most cases, we are actually the lowest in the area. So you can't shop any cheaper in here. But last I checked, Owasso's growing, Bixby's growing. This is not something that is impacting people in a way that they can't get by. Now, I will say, I don't think it's a small thing either, right? The question for all of us, though, is that the investment, the additional 7/10 of a penny, is that worth it to us to address the issue of homelessness, which we know comes at a significant community cost? Is it important to us to invest in public safety, with the goal of bringing our fire department and our police department at a pay rate up and above Oklahoma City? Is it worth it for us to invest in kids? I think it is. And I think most people would agree. Is it worth it to us to invest in our local economy, particularly our existing businesses? And so for sure, it is real money, right? But we have to be able to pour that back into this community so we can make sure the quality of life is where it needs to be, and so that those folks who are on the streets right now, so we can rapidly get them off the streets, right? So we can reclaim these public spaces, so we can make sure people are on to a better life. This is really about winning this next decade here in this community, and that comes with taking care of really serious problems and being able to chase really big and exciting opportunities.
Well, anytime a politician asks for more money, the first thought that came to mind was, are we broke?
Yeah.
Is the city of Tulsa struggling financially?
Yeah, I mean, we have some structural problems here. We're not struggling financially necessarily, though, but I mean, it's a question of, can we meet the needs that the city has right now? And, I would say, if you go walk the streets and you see, the unhoused population, I can tell you, we don't have the resources necessary to deal with that in a way and with the kind of speed and quickness that I think people would expect. Right now, I just went on a recruiting visit with the police department in Denton, Texas. There's probably 12 other law enforcement agencies down there in Denton. We didn't come within $15,000 in starting pay of any of them. We require a bachelor's degree, and so as we think about being 150 officers short, we're never going to be able to catch up unless we do something significantly different. And in fact, if I had 150 police officers show up today, I wouldn't be able to afford 150 additional police officers. So this is really a conversation about, Tulsa in the future, certainly right now, but in the future. It's been 45 years, I think, since we had a serious conversation about our permanent sales tax rate. This is a decision about the next quarter of a century, the next 40 years. And so I think we could say Tulsa's significantly different, and Tulsa's needs are significantly different than they were in 1980, before I was born. And so this conversation is not about simply the city being broke, because we're not in that position. This is about a city that can appropriately meet the needs of a city our size with the challenges that we have and the opportunities that are still out there for us to go and chase.
Are you concerned at all? You collect this money, you're in office, the next person has other plans, and all of a sudden your homeless money is going towards God only knows what. Do you lock it in for, do you give us a specific ballot measure to vote on?
No, and I got a lot of that from counselors. I think there's some areas where we might want to protect resources just because of, we know there are going to be ongoing issues, like maybe public safety could be one of those areas. Maybe the work that we want to do with young people be one of those areas. Homelessness, if we get it right, won't be something that future mayors have to deal with at the same level that we're dealing with it right now. But I would also say that, as I said before, from the day I was campaigning, the days of the campaign to now, there's been complete consistency in what I've talked about. This is also a conversation about how we have to take elections seriously. The fact that there are some people who may not think we have problems or may not, want to engage is a challenge. The fact that we're even having a conversation, not necessarily here, but I think it's true, about what future mayors might do. Well, we should expect more out of mayors. We should expect more out of city councilors. We should expect more out of ourselves. And so we shouldn't sit those things out, right? Elections are important. Serving in public office is important. Accountability is important. And so I also recognize we're having a conversation about long-term accountability in this community. And so what I hope out of my time in office, meeting these challenges, chasing opportunities, I hope the third thing is that we reset our expectations of how mayors are supposed to perform, that we reset our expectations about what accountability truly means. I made this comment in the State of the City. They say that you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. And they say, your campaign, you say all these wonderful things that sound good on the campaign trail, but when you get in office, the day-to-day grind of governing, you kind of forget all the hopefulness that you talked about on the campaign trail. That's not been my experience. I talked about issues, I talked about accountability. We've come in here, we've worked those issues, we've done it with accountability, an eye toward accountability. That's what people should expect from mayors, and they shouldn't expect anything less. And anybody who ever sits in my seat sits here with the responsibility of leading the greatest city in the country. And if somebody doesn't want to do that, they should never run for mayor. And if that's not clear to voters, they should never vote for him.
I'm running out of time, but what do you want folks to know for 2026?
I think for 2026, I think what I've learned in the last year is that there's little that we can achieve if we're together on stuff. If I look back on this year, if you were to tell me, December 2nd of 2024 that we'd be where we are coming on December 2nd of 2025, I'd be very pleased. I wouldn't be content, but I'd be very pleased. We talked about, on the homelessness side, expanding shelter capacity, addressing issues of evictions, decommissioning encampments. We have an eviction mitigation council. We're decommissioning encampments the right way. We opened a winter weather shelter last Monday. The county just voted yesterday to sell the juvenile detention center for the low barrier shelter. We're getting those things done. We talked about, increasing affordable housing. We had to focus on making sure that we cleaned up our permitting processes to make sure that we find a third-party partner to help us be able to create a fund to get money out the door to develop properties. We announced the Housing Impact Fund the other day. The permitting process is much better off today than it was when I took office, and we continue to work that. We're doing what we said we're going to do on the pathway to getting those 6,000 affordable units. On the public safety front, we had some challenges this year. We launched Operation Ceasefire, got 160 illegal guns off the streets, made almost 90 felony arrests, 4,127 citizen interactions, 7 uses of force, and only 1 complaint because of a verbal issue. we proved that we can protect the city and protect people's civil rights. Just the other day, in another slightly different area in the public safety front, found out last week, we had a 98% live release rate at Tulsa Animal Services. That puts you well above the standard of being a no-kill shelter. Now, it's only a week, but that's progress through intentionality. You know, people talk to me about the issue of stray dogs and stray animals, all that kind of stuff, and some of the challenges there. We made Animal Services its own department. We put it under the Commissioner of Public Safety. And look, you know, things are starting to progress in an area that I don't think a lot of people thought progress was possible. Doing that all while launching the Office of Children and Families. I mean, like, we have done a lot of things here in this year, but we've done it in partnership with so many amazing people. Every last one of the things that I mentioned came in partnership with folks outside of the city. That's what makes this a special place. And so I will say, going into 2026, we have to continue to pour into each other as we meet these challenges. And if we do, everything that I said that was possible a year ago is not just possible, it is probable. And I think that's really exciting as we go into a new year.
If you missed part one of our conversation, or you are looking for previous unedited interviews that you've seen here, we post them all on the Fox 23 News Tulsa YouTube page, where you can find them all, including some 2026 candidates running for office. We are in the process of scheduling more interviews.